I'm using the Deus 1 with the HF elliptical coil right now, but I've watched a few videos in the last couple weeks of guys who have Deus 2s, and I've been noticing that their settings are really funky. Don't get me wrong with this video. I'm trying to give some really useful tips. If you are struggling with the Deus 2, trying to find your targets, and you don't really have a lot of experience with the Deus machines, drop your auto response down. I've seen a lot of videos where guys have their auto response set at 5 and 6. Why on earth would you want to have that high of an auto response? It's going to take you forever to find your targets. If you are struggling trying to find your targets, this is my #1 tip for you. Drop your auto response down to a reasonable setting. There's no reason to have your auto response, your modulation up all the way. You know, your machine is not going to go any deeper. Just listen for your targets. Be focused on your surroundings and be focused on the ground. If you have your auto response set up too high, you're going to get a lot of EMI. You're not going to be able to swing nearly as fast. You are going to have to make some adjustments to your machine if you get in some different ground, if you have your auto response set up too high. And if you get into an area that has a lot of surface junk, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. With the auto response, there's 3 settings on the Deus machines that have a humongous impact on how many targets you can get out per hour, which is your recovery rate. It's not your recovery speed, your recovery rate. How many targets are you able to extract out of the ground per hour, right? No matter what they are. If they're junk, if they're good, whatever. How many targets are you actually getting out of the ground per hour? If you're struggling, you know, there's 3 things to consider. There's #1 is frequency. You know, you want to target a certain conductive metal in the ground, so you put it in a certain frequency. And it doesn't really matter. This is not about depth. This is about the stability of the detector and having to make a bunch of adjustments. The second setting on the Deus machines that has the most impact, it's not the mode, it is the auto response. The auto response has a humongous impact on how many targets you're getting out per hour. A lot of people might think that recovery speed has more to do with how many targets you get out per hour, but I want to know how deep the target is, and that's what the auto response setting does. That third setting that makes a big difference is, of course, the recovery speed, the reactivity. So with the auto response, what it does is it gives you a good indicator, it gives you a modulated tone on how, really, it gives you a good indicator of how deep that target is and how big that target is. It's not going to change your tone, it's going to change the intensity of that tone, and it's going to change the volume of that tone on that certain target in the ground. So if you have your auto response set up too high, all those deeper targets are going to sound like they're really shallow. I don't want to do that. If I'm going through a park and I want to get the deeper targets out, I want to bypass all that crap on the surface, right? I don't want to dig out that shallow stuff, you know, all that shallow junk, all those little bits of foil. I want to listen for those whispering targets, right? Those little whisper targets. I'll show you here. I'll just show you. I'll demonstrate with the Deus 1 here. I'll try. I'm the hot program, 14 kHz, three auto response, right? This is a dime, it's a clad dime. See how it's just whispering when it's deeper, right? Now I'll jack this up to 5 or 6. I'll jack it up to 6. Listen to this. It's the same tone from here to there, right? It's the same intensity of tone. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but my auto response is set way, way, way too high, man. If you're struggling with the Deus 2, this is a super important tip. I've seen a lot of guys have their auto response jacked up, man, and it takes them forever to find their targets. Just do this one simple trick. Drop your auto response down to 2 or 3 and see how many more targets. See how much easier it is to find your targets. You can identify how deep a target is by the tone of it. And if you have your auto response jacked up to 6 or 5, you don't know how deep that target is, so you're gonna be digging and digging and digging because you don't know where the target's at, right? That's how I can dig out so many targets. So I'll make an adjustment here. This is set at 6 here, isn't it? I can't tell how big it is. I can't tell how deep it is. I'm getting the same tone all the way around. All right, that's at 6. I'll go to 4 here. Now, I'm introducing just a little bit of modulation into the tone here. All right. Still overloading, right on the surface. So 3, right here. I'm at 14 kilohertz, so here's 2. 2 audio response, hot program. Right, just a whisper, right? If you hear that tone, dig that tone up, right? Because it's a deeper target, right? It's a deeper target. Right? But with this smaller coil here, I'm not really trying to go deep. This was just a demonstration, just a short demonstration, and a really big tip. I really have watched a lot of videos in the last couple weeks, and I've noticed that a lot of their settings that they have, their auto response is way too high, man. The reason why it's taking you a long time to find your targets, because your auto response is twice as high as it should be. Drop it down to a reasonable level so you get some modulation in that tone, so you can, it's your ears, man, it's your ears. That's what's going to help you the most out. It's not the buttons on the machine. That's your best discrimination right there, is your ears, right? There's no way I can get this many targets out of the ground as I'm getting in my videos if I don't have a machine that's very well modulated, right? Machines that don't have good modulation, I just don't use them, right? It takes forever to find targets. It's hard to know how deep your target is, and it's hard to know how big your target is. Well, thank you for watching.